Hello, good evening, shalom. Thank you all for joining us today to this great, exciting webinar ahead of us with a great timing. We're going to discuss some very interesting insights related to innovation in cycling. And of course, this is a very good timing because as you probably, all of you know, that on Saturday, not going to be any interesting football match because the Champions League is already done. But of course, we're going to hear the kickstart of the Tour de France. And we are all really, really excited for that. We're going to say hello and welcome to all of our viewers from all our social media. We're broadcasting to you live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter. Probably many more platforms as the global goes growing and growing. So welcome to all of you. I think we should just now start this great webinar with a short introduction with the great panel that we have here today. So I think the best intro would be for you guys to say hello and like a short introduction. Where you're from and the body that you are presenting. And of course, the only thing that you can predict, I don't know, someone beeping, but the only thing that you can predict in this webinar is that I'm gonna approach Rebecca first thing. So Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Elliott. I'm the Business Development Officer for ProTouch Sports. We're a South African sports brand that's centered around the UCI ranked continental team in Africa. We also run a national road cycling series, a virtual esports racing series, and we operate the Full Legged Foundation, which is a non-profit organization based here in South Africa, focused on fundraising for South African athletes onto the world stage.
Great, thank you very much, Rebecca. Moving on to Robbie Hunter, hello.
Hi there, good day everybody. Currently, ex-professional cyclist of 16 years and currently run my own sports management company called ProTouch Global, which obviously looks after a number of professional athletes around the globe in numerous different sports. One of them obviously is professional cycling. And we also do a lot of consulting and events like the Tour of Switzerland.
Okay, great. We have a lot of things to talk about, of course. Enrico, hello.
Sorry.
No, mute again. Enrico, you are on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Enrico Fli. I'm the CEO of RCS Sports and Events, the UAE branch of RCS Sport Italy. We are a sport organizing company. Our main product is the Giro d'Italia, plus many other professional cycling race and mass events. I'm in charge of the Middle East operation, where we run the UAE Tour World Tour race and other events on the mass participation.
Thank you. And I had the pleasure of working for the Big Start in Israel here last year, and it was an amazing opportunity and great event. Okay, moving on to Booker Paul.
Hi, everybody. I'm Booker Poole. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of USA Cycling. We are the national governing body of cycling for the United States, overseeing our Olympic team, 16 national championship events, thousands of registered events and sanctioned events, and all the way down to our juniors and youth development programs, and our foundation that helps fund all the elements that go into getting more people on bikes and creating a development pipeline for our elite athletes.
Okay, great. And last but not least, recovering from an injury, please welcome Juan Pablo. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Michelle, for the invitation. Yeah, in fact, I am in Barcelona right now, hoping to be in Nice on Saturday for the grand part of Tour de France. It's not going to be that easy. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to be there. And the reason is that I'm the CMO of Movistar team for the last 10 years. Yeah, we will have time today to talk a little bit about the dramatical changes we have lived in the last, I would say, 9.5 years, and everything that has changed in the last 5 months, which is completely amazing. So yeah, new cycling, new ways of doing things, same race, which is Tour de France next Saturday, different date, different everything. Expectation. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, of course. It's a new world, as you said, for the last, it's not 5 months, it's already from January or December, actually. So it's already 8.5, almost 9 months.
Correct. You're right. I said 5 because it was too fast. But indeed,
and what you forgot maybe to mention, Juan, is that you said that it's not going to be easy for you to be in Nice, but coming from Movistar team, this is one of the biggest teams in the world, maybe. So you are not used to things coming easy for you. So we trust you that it's going to be okay. Okay, so as all of our viewers can see, we have the best of the best, the elite of the industry of cycling, and of course, we are here to discuss innovation in cycling. And just before just diving easy to this water, I would like to hear your point of view in regarding to what kind of innovation are you using today, and how do you think that innovation is influencing the world of cycling? Rebecca, of course, we're going to start with you. You're on mute.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, okay. Well, interestingly, I think the most innovative cycling teams are certainly today, are those that don't have a dependency on sponsorships as their only form of revenue. We all understand that the toughest challenge that cycling teams face is the traditional funding model and the high dependency on sponsorship funding. So I think in this market that we're in, we're certainly within the South African and African context having to look at assembling an ecosystem that really seeks to unlock additional revenue streams for teams and athletes that doesn't have such a high dependency on sponsorship as a whole. So there are a number of different components that we look to encourage in terms of funding our team. We support a number of different national series here in South Africa, and we use those as broadcast platforms to actually attract other forms of revenue streams. We are very involved in crowdfunding and crowdsourcing within the South African context. And also we've been delving into sort of the esports and traditional sports club market to try and find ways to increase fan engagement, get more people who are or have an affinity to cycling to actually get involved in finding ways to fund these athletes onto the world stage.
So in high level, there's a lot of things that innovation is boosting, which is great. Maybe we can hear also from the elite side and the elite athletes. Juan Pablo, maybe you wanna add how innovation is helping you?
Yeah, absolutely. Cycling is typically a very, I would say, traditional sport. So we're based on heritage, we're based on Paris-Roubaix, more than 100 years of racing, same parcours every year. So let's say that till now, if we compare cycling with, I don't know, MotoGP or Formula One, or even America's Cup sailing or any other sports, we do not go that fast in terms of innovation. But with this situation we are living, I said 5 months, sorry about it, during this 2020, I mean, my perception is that things have dramatically changed. And I can say today that, at least in our case, Movistar team, we have, 100% changed our business model. We, of course, continue racing traditional races, and next Saturday, we will try to race Tour de France. But we are delivering to our partners, as Rebecca said, the only source of incomes we have until now, a completely different universe of things due to this situation we are living. So we are using innovation to deliver better things to our sponsors, not to say, obviously, how we are using innovation for our riders and for training and for developing the way we face races and we train and we do things. I talked to a journalist yesterday, and I said, listen, on Saturday we begin Tour de France. 5 years ago, when a rider was selected to go to Tour de France, so the coaches and the trainers told him, listen, you are selected to go to Tour de France, so this is your training method, your training list, so please go to the Tour de France in the best possible condition. 5 years later, which is today, this same rider is also told, you are going to be selected to be on Nice Tour de France on Saturday, but listen, I want you to go in the breakaways, or I want you to race the first 100 Ks against the wind, protecting the leader, or I want you just for the first mountain climb to push the peloton and then relax. So, because I want you to do this very particular thing, you will have to train in this very particular way. So, nothing to do. One of our riders going to Tour de France, another of our riders going to Tour de France. It's completely different. And that's because now we have more information. Now we have a lot of tools, a lot of big data analysis, a lot of engineering programs that help us to better perform and to better train the riders. So that was happening. I mean, even without coronavirus, that was happening. The good thing,
and Corona and COVID-19, of course, we're going to discuss through all this session, because we understand that this is here, at least for now, it's here to stay, and this is the new world, and everyone is adjusting to the situation and trying to recreate themselves for a better way to be active and to be on track and to achieve their goals. I just want to go further with a sentence that you said here, with a point you pointed out that you said that maybe cycling is not like Formula One or sailing, but it was improved. And I want to take this point and refer it to Robbie, because you wear the hat of the Union Cyclists and also Booker. Both of you, you're coming from the establishment of the cycling. So maybe your point of view, do you see lack of innovation?
Honestly, from my side, I don't see a lack of innovation. There's a lot of innovation in the sport over the last couple of years. I mean, touching quickly on what Rebecca and Juan Paulo said before, that one of the biggest problems in the sport has always been, the funding and the traditional way that funding's come. And comparing, like Juan Paulo said, to other sports, we are a little bit behind other sports when you do compare to, whether it's Formula One or basketball or baseball, where those sports are in essence run or held within a controlled environment. Cycling, on the other hand, or road cycling, on the other hand, is not held in a controlled environment. So to get the things that mainly over the past years for the other sports I've mentioned have been a driving force within a monetary side, we haven't been able to to draw on them, and that comes down to data, statistics, and those kinds of things. And it's very hard to try to draw on those things when in an uncontrolled environment, it's almost impossible to get the real statistics of if an athlete's doing this or that, or it's so much easier on a basketball field where the guy runs up and down. You can literally count on a screen how many meters he's run in a game or how many shots he's taken. Whereas cycling, it's been very difficult to do that. Times have changed, and there is a discussion at the moment with the athletes' data that's going on kind of between the teams, TV rights holders like RCS or even ASO, and people are trying to basically find out who owns the athlete's data. Is it the athlete? Is it the team? Is it the event?
So it's also like a privacy question
as well, yes. And I mean, but at the end of the day, it's quite a big thing, because everybody knows that is information that does create TV rights, and it creates revenue. So the sooner that those kinds of areas that are more clarified, it definitely can open up areas for teams and revenue for teams to continue in a different way than they have been previously. So I don't know what Booker, you've got your information or your ideas on that as well.
Yeah, I think I agree, but I also think we see, because we operate within the sport at all levels, all the way from the grassroots level all the way through the amateur levels and national championships for masters and age groups, and then all the way into the Olympics, and then many of our Olympic athletes are on trade teams, so we see it at all levels. I think innovation is certainly all over the place. It's harnessing it into the right buckets and understanding what audience that can apply to. We're lucky that we have a partnership with Comcast, NBC Universal, with their Sports Tech Accelerator program. So we see they vet a lot of opportunities that may pertain to amateur sport or may help our Olympic athletes and be better tested at an elite level. So we're able to keep an eye on that, or have people helping us keep an eye on that, but also give them an arena to test some of those things and to put that out to a membership base. So we're a membership-driven organization, and with our 50,000 plus members that race, we can offer out opportunities for them to try things, whether it be data monitoring, aggregating data and telling what a nutritional supplement might do, or what a new power meter might be. But there's a lot of innovation. I think it's just, how do you harness all that data into the right buckets that apply to the right people and at an affordable cost? A lot of these things that are built in innovation are built very small, and they're very expensive. And so really at the elite level, that's where the money's allowed to kind of implement them. That's where you see the trickle down. But I think now, with so much technology at people's fingers and people being able to understand and have access to data through the Apple Health app, through Fitbit, through Garmin, through all these platforms, at the very grassroots level, we're starting to understand and have people take that data and pull it together and innovate against that, and innovate against the amateur level and the younger levels to understand, okay, how do we make athletes better at this level or help them? And then they can graduate up into, the ranks of a national team or an Olympic team.
Maybe it's all, I think I can maybe take your words and say that maybe it's all a matter of innovation is all around, and it depends where you are, in which level you are based, and what are your goals. So let's say if you're grassroots and youth, so you are using innovation in order to educate and have the growth. And if you're climbing onto the elite athlete, then you are using the innovation in order to have them in high performance. Yeah. And also, which brings me to the next point, you are using innovation in a very important junction where you have the events production with the right holders and sponsors. And we all know the right holders probably are one of the main links in any production in sports events, which of course bring me to Enrico.
Hi. Yes, as
Was it,
my colleagues, let's say,
good intro for you?
yeah, it was good. It was good. However, as my previous colleague said, there is a lot of innovation in cycling. From an organizer point of view, of course, the business model, as also Rebecca was saying, is very traditional. At the moment, for the sponsor is the main revenues for us, coming from private or government entities. So in other sport, there are many other business models, especially leveraging the digital and the engagement of the fan. Let's say what I think is our priority in the next year will be to find a way to monetize better the audience that we have. Of course, the data are not only the data of the athletes that we have, let's say, plenty of this data. At the moment, I don't think there is a clear way to monetizing them, but of course, the future will show us which is the best way. But of course, there is also the data of the audiences and the data of the fans that are that can be monetized in a different way, like as being for the digital. So knowing who is watching our races, knowing better who is along the street seeing our races, something that can help us provide more insights to the sponsors and provide a better service. This is in terms of monetization. In the race itself, I think there is a lot of innovation that we can use immediately, also to increase, for example, the safety along the races, to let's say track exactly what is happening inside the race and transform these products in something that can be shown on digital or on television or in another media. So everything that is around knowing better our audience and let's say I would like to say make more usable and engage in the race. Yeah, more engaged in the race, because cyclists the way in which people enjoy cycling is in television mainly, or now in streaming or along the street. No, it's this way. I think that digital can help us finding other way of engaging the people, even when there is no races. And but yes, the question is how. So as an organizer, we're trying to scout as much as product as possible and try to implement along our races. But of course, it's it's a startup game, so you need to experiment a lot and select the best things for that works basically.
But do you think, it's a question for all of you, and maybe we can start doing this cycle again. Maybe we start with Juan Pablo. Maybe it's all a matter of point of view, because there are a lot of sports verticals that are they wish to stay, I would say, romantic. Okay, so they don't want no innovation to interfere with how the actual match is being played, or how the players or the athletes are actually providing, let's say, introducing the VAR into the world of football. It took a lot of time for the governing body to actually accept that. Do you feel that in the cycling elite round, actually, there is an opening vision for that?
I would prefer an opener one. I would prefer something that moves faster, that changes faster, which is true. I mean, VAR example with football is a good example. But yeah, I mean, 20 years ago we had 12 professional teams in Spain. Today there's just one. Hey, it's
this is why. That's interesting. Why is that?
Why is that? Because 20 years ago, there was more than 100 competition days on Spain. We had races all over. Today, we have just La Vuelta, Catalonia, Basque Country, and San Sebastian. Just 4 races on the top level. I mean, it's because of the globalization. I mean, can you imagine 20 years ago to race in Dubai, to race in Qatar, to race even in Australia? It was crazy. I mean, 80% of professional cycling was Spain, France, and Italy. Today, it's completely different. It's a globalized sport, racing all over the world, 5 continents, South America, Asia, Australia, whatever. Things are changing. What does it mean? It means that 20 years ago, a small Spanish company was sponsoring a team. There was 100 racing days. It paid the bill. It was okay. Today, or you are a multinational company, or makes no sense. I mean, if you are just a Spanish company and you race in Australia and Canada and Colombia and Argentina and Japan and Qatar, makes no sense. So it has changed the typology of the sponsors that are on the sport. It has changed the typology of the brands, of the industry brands that are in the sport. Bike brands, helmet brands, eyewear brands, clothing brands. All of us know that there's still a rule in place in cycling which limited the weight of the bikes, 6.8 kilos. When you talk with all the bike brands, they say, we can produce exactly the same safe bikes, probably with less than a kilo, with 5 point something. Why is that rule in place? I don't know, it's in place. What does it mean from my point of view? If we open that, we are encouraging bike brands to invest in resourcing and use new materials and also reduce. I mean, an amateur cyclist has a lighter bike than a professional because the professional cannot use that bike. That's the type of things when I'm talking about innovation, that cycling is not going as fast as other sports are doing.
But this is innovation and regulations, right? Because there must be regulations.
Exactly. Correct. Both things are together. I mean, in cycling, we have been largely discussing how to integrate the data that comes from the bikes. You see, the computer that riders have, they have a lot of information. How we can integrate that into the TV broadcasting show? Can we place the GPS position? Can we put a camera on board? It's largely discussed. There's a lot of rules over that. I mean, there was no discussion at all in MotoGP when they placed that. They said, this is show, this is what people want, let's do that. And there was a small discussion, let's say. And in cycling, we're talking and talking and talking. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying this type of things do not allow to speed up innovation. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think Juan Paulo, I think that plays into what Rebecca's talking about in the funding model and how things need to change. People talk about the big bike brands and talk about, they need to get more involved. The problem is it's an industry that seems more focused on market share than they are on market growth. We look at the big bike brands and they're fighting the same high-end fight just to get consumers, but they truly aren't putting a ton of money into building the pool and building cycling from the ground up. A few are, but really what they're focused on is stealing market share from one another. And I think Rebecca may know it better, but I think Jonathan Vaughters had a program a number of years ago about community funded teams where you're getting the fans to fund the team. We're a membership driven organization, so we go after members and give a value proposition to get people in, to get more kids on bikes, get more people of color on bikes, get more women riding, get more families out riding, because we see as the national governing body, if we get more people on bikes in the United States, we get a bigger talent pool. We get more kids that look at the junior ranks and look at programs like the high school leagues and then the collegiate teams, and then our national teams benefit from that. And if we're not doing that at the grassroots level, and all we're doing is fighting up at the government level and at the UCI level and the trade team level, and ignoring this down here, we're still fighting in this really narrow silo, and then we're trying to shove sponsors in and saying we're going to give you X amount of eyeballs or access to these athletes, instead of we're going to make you a part of this. What cycling really is a lifestyle brand, is a lifestyle, right? Cycling is a lifestyle, and when you get your first bike as a birthday present or a holiday gift, you're a lifelong cyclist. And how do we make people a lifelong cyclist, that they feel a belonging to the sport, but also a way to invest in it, or be a member of something, or be a supporter, or somehow be involved in the ecosystem that makes this thrive.
That's so true. And you bring me, you just opened the door. I want to hear Rebecca on that. But just before that, I will mention that we do have on this topic exactly a question from Robbie, from Jack. Robbie, Jack is watching us live on Facebook. And the question is, how would you suggest getting amateur cyclists more involved?
I actually saw the question, and it's not an easy thing. I mean, the question and the model that Jack's discussing is, having athletes basically competing behind something like the Tour de France. I think the amount of effort it goes into, and Enrico will also attest to this, is it's not easy to get the authorities or roads closed or anything like that for a certain amount of time. There's huge costs involved. So while it's possible to do it on a one-day basis for a single event, possibly in South Africa or in America or things like that, but to try and have possibly a how can I call it, an amateur event following the Tour de France behind the scenes is it's very complicated because the amount of times that the roads would be closed, the costs involved, authorities, all those kinds of stuff. It's not easy. The model of having amateur events is fantastic because it creates quite a lot of revenue, but to just include it into a professional side of racing, definitely.
Rebecca, what's your insights?
So I think, if I talk to the South African context, which is obviously very different to the American and European and Asian context, I mean, we literally have 3 UCI events a year in this country. One of those is a 5-day 2.2 tour, and then we have 2 one-day classics. And that is the only UCI races available to professionals based in South Africa. So, part of our reasoning for registering a continental team was to actually give South African riders the ability to, almost create a conduit out into the world so that they could actually go and experience UCI races internationally. I think contrary also to European and other countries that are more sophisticated in this, or in the traditional cycling fraternity, the focus is very much here in South Africa on mass participation events. So there's less pro racing and more mass participation, which typically the funding model here in South Africa was a percentage of entries on the mass participation would help to fund the professionals. But unfortunately, that doesn't really happen, and hence why we end up in the funding models that we do here. So, I think that if one looks at what other sports and other verticals are using, and I'll use an example of the Formula One. I don't know if any of you have watched the Drive to Survive on Netflix.
But come on, it's like the best. It's the best thing for 2019 and 2020.
Absolutely. So, a lot of people, and I mean, I'll use my husband as an example, who is an avid cyclist, but not an avid Formula One person until he started watching the series. Suddenly now understanding the behind the scenes, what's there's now a renewed interest in a sport that he actually had no interest in before. And I think that type of concept can be used in introducing, as Enrico said, more amateurs into the sport to riding bikes, but actually getting behind the scenes, and not just at a world tour level, but even at a club level and moving up. Through the channels to actually understand what it takes to be a professional athlete, but at the same time also taking from that what an individual amateur or just a sort of weekend warrior or fun rider would benefit from in terms of cycling. So one of the things that we're doing in terms of South Africa is we're launching something called Tour de Africa. It's modeled on the concept of Drive to Survive, but the idea being that we are creating a number of Strava challenges of 21 iconic routes around South Africa and Africa, and some of the actual races that we as a continental team do in Rwanda, in Gabon, Eritrea, Ethiopia, etc. And the idea behind it is to start getting people locally to do some of those segments, people to ride those segments on online platforms like KinoMap, and then actually starting to create a fan engagement platform where we can actually look to introduce people to cycling in Africa, but at the same time use that as a funding model. So we think that those are some of the innovative ways that one can start to bring amateurs and professionals together and find ways to fund that.
Rebecca, I think you said the key word here is engagement. By the way, Enrico, I see an opportunity here for a great documentary. Maybe you can produce it. I don't know. Just think of the opportunity here. And Rebecca. Yeah, Enrico?
No, there is a lot of course, we can do a lot of storytelling behind the scene of the races, especially the most old one. I think this is something that definitely we need to try. I think that the digital, again, as Rebecca and the other were mentioning, is a total new market because, let's say, we have the first experience this year in which we organized a race of stars. It's called. It's based on a platform like it's called Ruvi, but it's like similar to Zwift. Mm-hmm. Which some professionals were riding together, but aside of that, we organized a lot of amateur virtual racing because the virtual racing solved one problem, that is the cost. Unfortunately, to organize a real race in the real life has a cost, is a lot of operation, a lot of logistics. So the business model in digital for amateur, to me, seems more easy than the one in the physical because you have less cost. But again, to find a way to monetize this easiness to access is something that is not really on the table at the moment. So there are not enough number and not enough consolidated business model in this moment to say that the digital race, for example, can offer additional revenue streams. But the easiness that this platform, the easiness to organize a race that this platform offers is something that we should explore, because for sure during the lockdown, the number of people that have bought a bike just to try and inside the door is increased dramatically. So these are potential riders, potential fans, potential amateurs that have bought a bike for the first time only to play in digital. So there is a lot of analysis that we should do in order to engage the people using digital, bringing to the physical, and enlarge the movement of the cycling itself.
It's very interesting, Enrico. It's very interesting. I want to take your word, Booker, and because you said that cycling is a way of living, and if we are approaching to this new era of maybe COVID pushed it fast forward and brought 2025 to 2020 because of COVID. So we have a lot of digital and virtual engagement, esports and digital gamification with fans. It's a question to all of you. Do you think that, I mean, there is an upside and a downside for this virtual platforms and esports? Because on one side you say, Enrico, we have more engagement. During the lockdown, a lot of people bought their first bike in order to be able to go online and virtually ride at home. And on the other side, I want to ask you, do you think it can be the negative side of people not going out and biking and maybe being the negative amateur of bikers? It's a question to all.
From my point of view, no, I don't think, because the people at the end, at the moment, the experience I tried, it's not perfect, let's say, because riding inside a house is not, let's say, is not the same as going outside. So I think that in this moment, from a user experience of an amateur or of a cyclist, still the real cycling is a little bit better. There is no way. I think also the professional that tried the races were happy only when the races was finished because it was not the same as competing in the real road. So I think that also movie stars have some experience in digital, and it's not the same. So I don't think it's a negative. I think it's something that is a collateral at the moment. And the beauty thing is that the beauty of the digital is you can compete really with a lot of people all around the world in a social environment, like can be a Facebook like let's say environment. But at the moment, I don't see it replacing or a negative, let's say, having a negative impact on going outside. Let's say.
Yeah,
anyone else in the panel here wish to say a word in this?
I think it's additive to what we're trying to accomplish. I think everybody in the sport is trying to accomplish. More people pedaling is good. If it's in a digital space or on a Peloton bike or on Zwift or Full Gas or whatever all the others, if it lowers or if it raises somebody's self-esteem, lowers the barrier to entry for somebody to get on a real bike outside past the pandemic. I think you started out with this. I believe the pandemic pushed us, accelerated what we already knew in the cycling industry. Is we needed to be innovative. We needed to look for new ways to engage fans, engage in the digital space. We had the infancy of esports, and that's a new discipline. Esports is not. I don't believe esports is a savior, nor is esports a replacement for road cycling for anything. Esports is a new discipline. It's a game. It's a video game. You can game the system. You can you learn the courses, and it's like playing a video game and knowing the codes and all that. It's one of our new disciplines. Just like we have BMX and we have cyclocross and we have road and we have mountain, esports is a new discipline. People are going to excel at it and be really good at it because that's all they do. But
there is, sorry to barge into, but esports and gaming is two different things. Esports is like the elite of the elite athletes, while gaming is like the amateurs.
No, one of the amateur cycle, the top, one of the top Zwifter, the number one ranked Zwifter here I think in the world and in the United States is an amateur cyclist. He's not a world tour rider. He crushes world tour riders because he knows how to game it. He's a professional video game player who rides a bike and is super fit and knows how to play the game.
No, I was referring to the market. I mean, I was just placing the market as the differences between esports and gaming.
I don't know that it's that different. I think it's a video game and it's additive to engagement within cycling. It's not a replacement for anything.
Do you think it can take us actually, if it's increasing the introduction to new people to cycling, do you think it can actually help us to become a better world, like a greener world with bikes? With green riders? I see you smiling there.
If we can certainly harness what the pandemic delivered in terms of the uptick in people riding bikes, especially here in the United States, who've been culturally driven by driving cars and having that, and not a bike culture, but seeing the cities and seeing the infrastructure put in place to support cycling here in the United States. If we can harness that and keep that alive past wherever we end this pandemic or start coming out of it, if states and cities and municipalities keep those in place, that's certainly, that's an innovation within the infrastructure of the United States and cycling as a whole. And it's going to give people a little more safety if there's safer bike lanes, away from cars and people texting and driving and, what's keeping people off the roads. If some of that infrastructure is put in place, we certainly will see more people on bikes, but it's up to us and the bike industry to press that forward.
what would Google cars do? An autonomous car, you know? That's another vertical that needs their money making as well. But this is a thought, you know, giving up cars and moving into bikes. And looking at the time, you know, it's like almost 36 minutes here, and we are discussing all those insights from the industry of cycling and the influences of innovation. And, you know, we are walking around the elephant, but the elephant is in the room. So as we mentioned previously, the pandemic changed everything. So maybe, I mean, did it change it to a better, to a more effective? What did it influence the outcome of the pandemic? Enrico, maybe because you are related to the high level of the broadcasting of the elite athlete and the event, maybe you can give us your insight.
But at the moment, I don't see really positive effect of the of the pandemic, honestly, because let's say from a business perspective, has been a disaster for everyone. I think
the
so.
outcome,
Adapt on this.
The outcome.
From a fun perspective, has been again a disaster. I think what we and of course now is generating a lot of cost. That for a sport that is already heavy in terms of cost is not a good news. So what I can say is that out of this pandemic, the good thing I see is that people is using more the bike now, because all this pandemic, the fact not to go through public transportation, through metro, I see a lot of people more using the bike in their normal life. I see a lot of people buying e-bikes for all their commuting. So I don't see, let's say at the moment, I cannot see positive things for the events, professional events, honestly, but I see a lot of positive things coming for the overall movement. Let's say a larger number of people will have a bike in the future. I think a lot of more kids will use the bike. The e-bike will be a lot more used than what is it today. And of course, all these two elements in the long term can produce benefit for all the industries, because we will have more people on the bike, more people in front of the television looking at our races, and more fun along the street. But we need that the pandemic finishes, otherwise we are still here discussing if positive or negative.
But as all of conclusions are that it's here to stay, at least for the next winter. Robbie, I want to ask you, regulation side, adapting to COVID-19?
Honestly, I think Enrico's also pretty good to speak about these kinds of things. I mean, a lot of the events right now have been able to be held under quite strict regulations. I mean, Tour de France coming up right now. Juan Paro can also attest for the way that the athletes and the teams are trying to work or kind of function within a bubble that you know, the athletes are having to be tested before they get there. The staff are tested. The people that are working at the events have to be tested. They're not allowed to come into contact with kind of the outside or people outside of their so-called team bubble. So a lot of regulations have been put into place to try and make sure that the event can stay clean per se, away from, you know, the possible contamination of the pandemic. So yes, there's a lot of things that are happening and have been put in place that have been able to that have been or given us the opportunity to hold events like the Tour de France. It's the same kind of stuff that's been put into place also in Motor Grand Prix, these kinds of things. So yes, it hasn't been easy. There definitely are events that have been held, kind of smaller events, sporting events that have been held. But honestly, the size of the World Tour racing and professional cycling, the amount of crowds and those kinds of things that it does attract, the police have had to get involved and literally walk around and tell people that if they're going to come to events, they're going to get fined. So a lot of regulations, and possibly, you think that it's too hard, but it's either, you run the event under certain conditions. Otherwise, if something does happen and athletes get sick, the event closes down and everybody loses. So yeah, it hasn't been easy, but it's been a necessity, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we saw all around the world. We see it with the NBA. We saw it with the Champions League. That all the elite athletes and all the leagues did their best in order to close the season. But with the amateur, with the mass event, this is a whole different thing, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, our team was actually very lucky to get 3 UCI events in before lockdown here in South Africa. We actually had them stuck in Thailand for Tour of Thailand when our lockdown regulations came in place. So it was a bit touch and go at actually getting them back to South Africa. But yeah, we've had no racing here whatsoever since March. We're hoping to get back into doing some racing towards the end of this month. But, again, our governments are also regulating not just the event organizers, but the actual governments are regulating whether or not you can actually leave the country. When you arrive in another country, what sort of quarantine requirements are there. And if you've got to do a 14-day quarantine stuck in a hotel room, maybe on an indoor trainer prior to a tour, that's probably also not very conducive to being race ready. So it's a difficult situation, but hopefully one will get through these challenges over the coming months.
Juan Pablo, thank you, Rebecca. Juan Carlos, maybe you can, Pablo, maybe you can share some insight in regarding to preparations in the high level with the athletes towards Tour de France under the pandemic.
The main difference with other sports you mentioned, like NBA or Champions League or whatever, is that basically you can not close a country. We do not play in a stadium. We do not play in an arena. We cannot go to Disney World to play the NBA finals. We race in an entire country. If you have seen races these previous weeks, there was people on the road because it's free and it's open, and the police cannot close 200 days every day. So it's slightly different. Yeah, we are trying. I mean, more or less all the international federations have replicated the same systems, the bubble process, and everything. But there are things that, because of the particularity of cycling, you have to do different. So, for example, in our case, what we did is after racing Dauphiné, we concentrate all the team in a hotel on the Alps, and most of the teams did the same. So say, okay, this list of 10 people, we will choose the 8 inside those 10. So everybody goes to a hotel in the Alps, everybody's controlled there, you have no contact with your family, with your friends, you cannot go to take a coffee with your couple. So you are controlled, Dauphiné, 15 days, and the Tour de France begins. It's a bubble, nobody can enter, nobody can leave. Well, we'll see. The other day, Tour de France ASO announced that they will fire a team if they have 2 positive cases. We'll see what happens if someone from the organizers is tested positive. What happens if the judges are tested positive? What happens if the TV broadcasters are tested positive? Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows?
We wish all the best of health to everyone, and that no one will postpone these events. Enrico, do you have any thoughts about when is the next event? When is the next Giro d'Italia?
Is now in let's say in October. There will be the Giro d'Italia. It has been postponed. There will be also the Tirreno Adriatico. We have already run the Milano-San Remo and the Strade Bianche with the full COVID, let's say, procedure in place. As Jean Pablo was saying, the public was along the street.
You're already adjusting to the new.
Everything went
to the
went
new
well.
cycle with the COVID.
Yeah. Everything was extremely regulated. We have to present the plan to the government before being accepted and to the single municipalities. So this has been a very challenging process because, of course, depending on the situation of the pandemic in the single region, there were different regulations, different things. But at the moment, what we have seen is that everything went smooth. Of course, there is no people at the start and there is no people at the finish. This is, let's say, kind of pity. We cannot avoid this. But along the race, the people went in any case. They were standing along the race, and we were happy that there were people there. But of course, we know the risk. I just mentioned that in February, I was managing the UAE tour that has been, the last 2 stages has been cancelled because we found positive people. Let's say at the end, we have 18 people positive. So it was being very challenging and dramatic for the riders because they were stuck inside the hotel and they cannot leave.
It costs a lot of money, right, to cancel this kind of event. It's a huge event. And you have the ride holders, you have the production,
Yeah, luckily we were able to complete 5 out of 7 stages. So let's say the majority of the race. Of course, we will end up having more cost and let's say some problem with some sponsors that were, let's say, not happy with the fact that 2 stages were cancelled. But in general, we were lucky because we were able to finish 5, and above all because out of the 18 people that were positive, nobody has a serious issue, because that was. This is another important part of the problem, in the sense that luckily the 18 people were mostly asymptomatic. And this is a good news in the sense that nobody really hurt themselves. The only impact was for the team itself that were stuck in the hotel, not able to go back home to continue to train. Especially the positive, of course, they some of them stayed in the hotel for 30 days after the race. So the season was a little bit complicated for them from that moment on. But in general, let's say this experience teaches us how to manage the crisis, because let's say now with the quarantine, we are all used to what is it, a quarantine. But in February, nobody knows what was a quarantine. Yeah. And we experiment in real life what the situation was.
Live adjusting.
But
look, they say that time slides by when we're having fun, and we are already almost an hour here spending time together. It was very, very interesting. I just want to ask all of you the same question, and I expect different answers, but just I want to ask you to be bold and just think out of the box here and tell me, what do you think, let's say, where the cycling vertical is going to be in 5 years? You know what? Not in 5 years, because people used to ask us in 2015, where are you going to be in 2020, like in 5 years from now? So I'm guessing no one knew what's about to be to become in 2020. So let's say in 4 years or in 6 years from now, and be bold. It's just you and I here, all of us. It is recorded, but we're not gonna shove it in your face later on. So maybe we start with Rebecca, just like one bold vision of you.
So I think 5 years from now, there will still be very much the same traditional sports that we see today. Certainly from a cycling perspective, I think esports will be a new category, as everybody has spoken about. It's not going to replace traditional cycling, but it's going to be a new category. And possibly there will be riders who do both, but very possibly there will be a whole new generation of riders who will actually do esports and not necessarily the traditional cycling. So I think cycling is still here to stay. I don't certainly believe that it's going to disappear, but I think that it will require, in order to survive, to actually evolve into a new way of modeling in order for it to be able to survive. Because I think that the old school traditional model of sponsorship is really it's done.
Right, Robbie?
I think Rebecca's right in the sense that she says that I think the esports side of things is here to stay. If you see where esports has come from, and you compare it to what was said before, it is a game. But then again, you see how far we are behind, the likes of Sony with the PlayStations and Nintendos and things like that. And I think that's where you need to compare, the esports side of things. So the esports has got a long way to go. There is a massive market for it, because if you see the amount of money that the gaming world makes, competitions where people are earning $2-3 million from sitting around playing games. So there's a massive market for it. So that will change and will continue going forward. And I think in my prediction, I think for the real world of cycling, professional cycling, is that I think in the future, the model of the teams will change. It's been a long time. There's been discussions over it, and I'm talking, the past 20 years. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to change in the sense that I think there's still going to be a lot of discussions with the TV rights holders and events, so RCS, so. But I think at the end of the day, I think teams and athletes are going to start winning that fight. I think
that's a highlight here. That's a quoted highlight.
I think they're gonna. I think it'll get to the point where a certain part of revenue, obviously not all of it, but I think a part of the revenue will end up going towards the athletes and the teams to sustain their futures.
On the athlete side, Juan Pablo?
Well, I have a worry here, which at the same time is a desire. We are seeing, everybody is seeing that more and more people are using their bikes, going to the job just for fun, to race with your kids. So bike industry is, I would say, winning kind of a battle. And my worry is, will professional cycling be able to take advantage of that and enlarge our business? Because by the moment, and as Enrico said, it's not happening. I mean, more and more people are riding their bikes just for fun, just for everything. All the cities, all the local governments are doing big policies encouraging people to ride their bikes. They are creating renting services and everything. Will professional cycling be able to use that wave and increase our business, have more sponsors, have more supporters, followers, bigger races, bigger events? I hope so. We have the basis. More and more people are using their bikes. Can we take that people and put them into professional cycling, which is our goal? I hope we can, but I'm not pretty sure we will.
Great. Enrico?
Let's say, I think that we will have a lot of people riding the bike more than today. Especially, I think that one big thing will be the e-bike. This will be a total new category and not the sports, not the normal cycle, the e-bike. I think this will be a totally new world, a new market, new races, new team, new athletes, new everything. As Juan Pablo was saying, I think the challenge of the athletes, the teams, and the organizer, and in this we are all together, is to find new way of monetization, because the TV rights are not the solution. Let's say, because the TV rights let's say at a certain point they will go down, because the digital will eat everything from the bottom. So
OTT is there.
I think that we need to find. Yeah, we need to find other way of monetization. I don't know which one, but for sure we need to be able to count all the people that are in the bike. The growth should be monetized, maybe through digital or through TV or through other things, but we need to monetize this audience. Otherwise, with the current audience, with the current business model, and the cost that cycling implies, because it's a huge cost to organize Giro d'Italia, it's an enormous amount of cost. Let's say it's tough. It's tough to find money to support the movement from the grassroots. It's tough to involve the amateurs, etc., etc. But the positive thing is that I see a lot of people in the bike in the future. So in 5 years, I think we will have a lot of people going in the bike for everything and leaving the car at home.
That's a good point. Last but not least, Booker.
I agree with the digital space and esports being a huge player. But I think the two biggest things, 5 years, 6 years down the road, I think there will be parity in gender in the sport. I think that is a absolute mandatory way forward for us to find new money and engage the audience and bring sponsor value and bring this sport into the modern century and be able to derive the family aspect and the lifestyle aspect of it. So I think gender parity is absolutely paramount and will be there within the next 6 years. I think also the reach into underserved neighborhoods and markets. I think we will see, especially here in the United States, teams and athletes excel that have not traditionally excelled or been put in a place to excel within the sport, within the African American community, the Hispanic community, the indigenous communities. I think we will see a big opportunity from those people who are athletes and are taking to the bicycle right now and finding it being an outlet. I think their future is ahead of them. And I think 6 years down the road, that's going to show itself. And we're going to see a much broader cross-section of athletes participating in this sport.
Great. So I see a bright future. And speaking of the future, we have the second cycle for the Global Virtual Accelerator by Hype, starting from November 16th. And innovation in bicycle is going to be one of the topics which we're going, of course, to deal with. We're going to have a lot of new startups companies coming and presenting their products and their technology. So it's going to be very, very interesting to stay tuned. And also we have the future of tomorrow in sports and football for federations and club coming on September 8th in our demo days. So it's going to be a very interesting days ahead of us. I really want to thank all of you for being here this afternoon with us. It was very, very interesting to hear all of your insights and revealing and talking about the future and the past and just being here with, I think, a main intention of spreading good for cycling. I think this is what I take from this session. Anything else you wish to add, Rebecca? I was just looking at you and I saw you're like, or was it just a goodbye? You're muted. Mute. Rebecca, yes.
Sorry, I was fading into the darkness because in South Africa it's already past sunrise, so I was battling to keep a little bit of light. But yes, thank you very much for having us on the show. It was really informative and great to interact with the rest of you. So I look forward to having further conversations and seeing where
you
this
can
will go.
all open your microphones and just say warm goodbye from all of our viewers. We have a lot of viewers here, as I see the numbers live on as I said before, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and probably much more platforms. So make sure that you're updated with our next webinars. I want to thank you again. It was great to spend this hour and a bit more with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.